Now today we've got Mark Shearwood. Mark is one of my first students from God knows how long ago, where I didn't do a 12-month course. I did a 2-day weekend, and it was all about Brisbane City Council only. And Mark came up from Sydney, which had nothing to do with Brisbane, came up and did that course, and since then he's gone on to actually do amazing things, and I have no idea how many projects he's running, but it's in the vicinity of 30-ish, I think.
60 million in 5 states.
There you go. So that's what's possible, folks. Come up and learn some of the lessons from Mark. Give him a hand, folks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great actually to start with, Rob, and we did that course. It was so long ago now, but yeah, so I'm in 5 states, and my total is about $60 million in 5 states. So I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of this kind of stuff as well. So I do a lot of small stuff. I don't do major apartment buildings or anything like that. My major stuff is 1 into 2, 1 into 3, 1 into 4 splitter blocks mainly, but there's a lot of it. So this is a project that I started. I bought this property in Nil. Now, I actually own 9 houses there, but this is one of the ones that I bought. Now, it was a corner lot. I bought this property here for cash for $130,000, and my intention was always to split it and put another 2 on the side. So we already had 2 crossovers there, as you can see. So I do a lot of this kind of stuff where I keep the original. And I build another one, right? I build another 1 or 2. I might renovate the existing house, or I might not have to do it. In this particular case, I didn't have to do anything. In fact, it was only like a month or 2 ago that I actually put new blinds in the place. So before that, it had blinds, but I just replaced that. But other than that, I haven't done anything to that house. And the beauty about this whole development is, in my other ones, is that I was able to actually rent that house out for the entire process of the development, and actually paid for the whole thing. It funded the whole development, right? So yeah, so that's what I did, and this is because I've worked in Nil for quite some time. I'm not from Nil. I just researched it, and it was a really good time to buy. I started buying there in 2012, and as I said, I own 9 properties there now. And I started buying there, and when I started buying there, these houses were like, the first one I bought there was 81,000. Then I bought 92,000, 130,000. I bought them all that. They're now a lot over 300 now. But so I've got a lot of contacts there. I know a lot of people there, and I was able to pick this one up pretty good. And it was also rented at $300 and something a week. So I bought it for cash for $130, and that funded my whole construction, right, in a construction loan. I paid cash for all of the planning and the DA process. So I do a lot in Victoria. I've got a lot of projects on in Victoria, all over the place, mainly regional stuff. But I had a planner here. I have a big operation, but I had a planner here that I worked with throughout this process, and things went a bit murky, and I changed planners after I'd got this planning process done, right? So he designed the plans, we'd put them into council, and then I changed planners. So I'll explain how that all happened. So yeah, okay, so that's what I did. So then when I looked at the site, I was happy with what I saw. It was all flat. There's no trees. There was only that garage that was on that house where I had to knock over. That wasn't a problem. Nil's got really bad soil, right? So it moves. So that was the only thing that we had to do. So we had to change everything, because on the original plans, it had a concrete slab. And we couldn't we could, but it was going to be a bit more expensive. So we decided to go piers, right? So when we did the building permit, we changed it to do piers. All right. So other than that, there wasn't any trees or anything like that I had to get rid of. It was all pretty flat. And then what we did, so I had numerous amount of problems here, right? Like amazing amount of problems. This took me 3 or 4 years to complete, and it's actually only just completed. So it was only just last week that I've actually signed the leases for the other 2 units, right? But it was a long, drawn-out process. I had to take the council to court. and I won, of course, but it was a long, drawn-out process. So what happens is, number one is we originally had a concrete slab, and on the building approval, we changed it to a subfloor, which was higher, right? It was slightly higher, and this caused a bit of problems. So what happened was that when I put in the initial DA for the project, we had a neighbour directly next to me, and he didn't like the project, right? And like what I'm doing a lot of developments in Nil. This is not the only one. We've got about 4 or 5 going there. But the thing is, I've noticed that country people don't like change, right? They just don't like change. And it was really difficult. And this guy was next door, and he caused me so many problems. It wasn't funny. So he had cameras up all over his house, like filming my crew. It was just a nightmare. So what he did was he actually went onto my site, and he actually measured this. He did everything to stop the development, right? So he measured the height of the floor. And he found out that because the building permit was different to the actual town planning documents, it was out by, he measured it at 540 mil, but I had to get a surveyor in there, and when I got the surveyor in there, it was actually only out 90 mil. And this caused a lot of problems, because what he did was he took that to council. And then when he took it to council, council said, doesn't comply, we're going to close you down, right? So they basically did. They closed us down, and we had the roof up at that stage, and they wouldn't let us go back and actually tape up the roof and protect it from the weather, but we did it anyway. And so we had a stop work notice. It stopped. Okay, even though it complied, everything was fine. Even the building part of things was absolutely fine and ticked off with the certifier, but the council had a problem, right? And yeah, it's been fixed up now, but they broke the law on many different things. So what happens normally in this sort of circumstance is you get something called a secondary consent, and it takes about 2 weeks, and it's all done, said, done, complete, carry on, right? But that didn't happen in this particular case. Right? They wouldn't allow me to get a secondary consent. We'd already got a secondary consent on another development that we had there, but they wouldn't let it happen here. And they said, no, not happy. You've got to put in a whole new planning permit, and it's got to go to a vote, right? So we thought, okay, we'll go through the whole process again. So we filled it out. We put it into council, right? And then what happened was that when they do a council meeting, the CEO actually told the councillors to vote it down, which is against the law. You can't influence the councillors. So they went in there, right, unbeknown, and they voted it down. And that's when I got aggro and I took them to court. So I went to court, I went to VCAT, and the whole process was so long, right? It was so long because it was all drawn out. So we had to go to mediation. Then 6 months later, we had to go to court. Then 6 months later, then a few months later, they had to have the decision. And then after that, have to go through a whole bit of permit. And that's what that's what drew us out, right, to make it so long. So at the council meeting, they rejected it, took them to VCAT, and VCAT approved us to keep going. But that whole process took maybe 18 months to 2 years, as you'll see, a bit more. And then, so it was all drawn. I'm just so glad it's all finished now. But the thing that was really good about this particular project, because I think when you start to get into this and you start to develop, everything's got problems, right? Every development that you do is going to have issues. This one just had a legal issue. So I would say from the opportunities from this one is you've got to know your area very well. Now, I do a lot of as I said, I've got about 60 mil in 5 states, but I'm not an area expert. So I don't go to an area and go, oh, okay, we'll do this. I don't do that. I look at the project as a whole, and if I can make money on the project, I'll do it. And it doesn't matter where that is. But in this particular case, I know the area extremely well. I know its fundamentals. I know how to make money there. I know a lot of people there and all that. So and I have 9 properties, and I began buying here in 2012, right? So it's not that long ago, and I have a lot of contacts. So I understand the drivers and the fundamentals that make that town work, and I've done extremely well there. The house didn't need any work, and there is extremely strong rental demand in that area, okay, which made me fund that whole development on that one project, right? The sewer ran along the front of the property, so that wasn't an issue connecting up to that. And I knew that I'm with these coasts because I do a lot of battle axes as well, but I love the corner blocks because you don't have to put a road in, an extra road in, right? So you can run them all off the street. Not only are they better resale, but it's just easier to work with. I did a project in Sydney, and that particular project, we spent 80,000 just on the driveway. So it was a 1 into 2, but we spent 80 grand because it needed retaining walls, it needed extra drainage, and everything cost 80 grand for that. So with this particular project, I didn't need all that, and it was pretty easy to put it all together. This is the photo of the property. So this is when we started. So we put the fence up and all that. And then this was that was the property. So that was the shed. And then this was the other lot, right, over there. And then what I wanted to do was, this particular home is a 3-bed, 1 bath, okay? Now, the problem, because I'm doing so many developments in the area, the problem is that I'm working with the agents. And the problem is the NIL needs managers, and they need teachers, they need nurses, right? All these kind of people, and they come from the city. And the problem is that when they come from the city, they go to the real estate agent and they say, what do you got to rent? And they say, well, we've got this old house, weatherboard house, got a fireplace on a big yard. They say, I don't want that. I don't want a yard. I want something that's new. What have you got that's new? And of course, Neil hasn't got anything new, and that's why I'm building them all, right? So my stuff, like the 2 houses that I'm actually building on here are actually going to nurses. The hospital is taking both of the houses, right? Because there's a huge demand. So I knew what I needed to build, and I built this. So I built a 3-bed, 2 bath, right? Small house. Now, this particular house is about 15 squares, so they're quite small. They're not prefab; they're actually houses, but they look prefab actually. But they're small, 1-car garage. But it's got everything that the professionals want in this particular area, and they go really fast, right? And they go for good rents as well. I get good rents out of them. And then this is our finished project. So as I said, we only just finished it like last week. They've still got to go back and do the landscaping actually, but they're going to go back on Wednesday. But this is how we did the project. So you see this one, this is probably a good one to show you, because after we cleared the land and got rid of the shed, we got rid of that. But they do quite well. They do really, really well in this particular suburb. 14, 15 squares. Don't have to really have a big house, just small enough on 250 square meters of land. Happy days for that. And then this is the figures that we had, right? So I bought it for 130 with stamp duty and all that stuff. And what I did was I just funded the actual construction. That's all. I paid cash for everything else, like to get it to DA stage, and then the court case and so forth. But anyway, that cost me a lot. I normally work on a rate of about 18 to about 26%, something like that. This is quite high because I own the property. So I really only spent, I paid $440 for the build, really, with another couple of bits of things along the way. But this was really, really, really good profit. And this particular property is gonna give me I'm keeping these, but I keep everything. I don't sell it. But with this particular one, it's going to give me a positive cash flow about $700 a week. So that's not bad, because remember, I've got 3 rentals, right? I've got 3 rentals coming out of this one. So this is a brilliant one. Now, this is the timeline that I spent with everything. I bought it in 2015, and then I land banked it for a while because I've got projects on, right? So I just thought, well, I'll do that when I get around to it. I had the DA approved in 21. Everything really, really well until really 23. The Hindmarsh Council came on site and closed me down because we're out by 0.9 of a mil. Like, it was just insane, right? Then they closed me down. Then I had the inspection. We had to go, yeah, that's right. We had to go back to advertising. We had a practice hearing. That's when everyone got together and said, right, what are the problems? How are we going to fix this, right? It was useless because it ended up going back into court. And then I had my hearing date, and then I had to wait so long before I actually, because when you have your hearing date, the member there gets away and says, oh, okay, thanks for everything. Right, yeah, we've got the information. I'll go away and I'll give you a decision. So we had to wait about 6 weeks or a month for that decision. And then we had to apply for a new permit to actually start work again, right? So it was a really long, drawn-out process. But in this particular case, it was great for me, well, sort of, because I was getting rent all the time, right? So I was able to survive on it because the rent was there doing it. So the lessons that I learned from this is I do a lot of building out there. I've got a lot of projects. I've got probably maybe four or five projects out there now, all splitter blocks. But we found out that we were using trades from Nil and Horsham around that sort of area. And they were basically ripping us off. Like, we were bringing trades from Melbourne to come to Nil, even though we paid all of their transport costs and accommodation. They were still a third of the cost. And they would also get the job done. Like the Melbourne guys just get in there and go, boom, 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 boom. We're here for a day, and they'll work, right? But the Nil guys get there, oh, we'll go for a coffee, oh, it's smoke, we'll go home, you know. And everything was just drawn out, and it took so long, and it was just driving me crazy. So we ended up bringing all the trades from Melbourne. Now, the builder I've got in there too, we brought up from Melbourne as well, because the builders there were going to charge me an awful amount of money to do what I wanted to do. So I brought one from Melbourne, and he doesn't do all my work here, but he's able to tender on all my work here. It doesn't necessarily win them, but he's able to tender on all my work here. So I work a lot with him. The other thing I learned is councils do break laws. So they do definitely break laws, right? And this particular one, now all that has changed now because there was a new CEO. Everything's all changed now. But when he was in charge, yeah, not good things happen. And avoid VCAT if you can, right? So it was a costly process and drawn out. My lawyer was over 20,000 just for the lawyer. So it was very hard. And be consistent. So as I said, I changed the draft person. And when I did that, I work with another company here now in Melbourne. But when I did that, I did it midway, and I really shouldn't have done that because everyone wasn't on the same page, right? So it sort of caused a bit of problems and all that. But yeah, so it's a great project. And as I said, I'm doing a lot of them there. I think I've got four. I think I've got 4 there now. And it was a great little project. But am I buying any more there? No. Am I buying in other areas here? Absolutely. So we've got a lot on in Geelong. We've got about 8 projects. We've got about 8 projects in Geelong. I've got other projects in Maui. I've got other projects in Trentham, all over the place.